We are very excited to be celebrating UN Day with our conferences fair and with such awesome leaders in the Model United Nations community. So without further ado, I want to give us a chance to introduce ourselves and to get an idea of some of the people that are here with us today. So if you don't mind, in the chat, please go ahead and introduce yourself. Share your first name, where you're from, whether you're a student, teacher, parent, or if you're a conference organizer, please introduce yourself as well in the chat. And we'll give everyone a second to start to get some introductions going so we can get a sense of who we have here with us today. I see many familiar names and faces so far. Hi, Lydia, welcome. Great to see we have a number of awesome conference organizers who are here from different conferences. Hi, Carolyn, exciting to hear from Munich today. Hi, Shrindi from Bruin MUN. Hi, Sabrina, welcome, Cameron. Great to see so many different conference organizers as well as teachers and students joining us today for our live event. And then also every year, this is an event that we run annually. And historically, when we've shared this after the fact, we have thousands of people that also view the recording. So if you're watching after the fact, I hope you also enjoy getting to learn about all of these awesome Model United Nations conferences. And without further ado, I want to jump right in and share. I know we've all been on Zoom for a very long time at this point in different capacities over the pandemic, but please feel free to turn your cameras on, and you're welcome to ask questions in the chat throughout the course of this event. And if we will also likely get the chance to take some live questions as well during the panel section of this event. We ask that everyone please be respectful of one another, and of course, no bullying in our chat. We'll do our best to moderate it over the course of the event. And if you have any questions, please continue to drop them in. And also for all of our conference organizers, feel free to help answer those questions as well that might be coming from many of our parents, students, and teachers that are joining us here today for this event. And briefly, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Laura Beth Goldsmith, and I'm the Executive Director of Partnerships at Best Delegate, which basically means I have the awesome job of getting to work with all of our students, teachers, parents, school districts, nonprofit organizations, businesses, and governments in order to set up sustainable Model United Nations programs. And I've been doing Model UN for more than 15 years, and I'm very, very passionate about this incredible activity because I see it constantly transforming students' lives on a daily basis. But enough about me. I briefly want to introduce the great work that Best Delegate is doing as a part of the Model UN community. Best Delegate is really focused on providing Model UN resources to the community and helping to support all of the awesome schools and clubs that are doing Model UN. Our resources have been viewed over 10 million times by people in all 193 member states. We've had people from over 100 different countries participate in our programs, and consistently we run summer camps, workshops, and conferences, and our programs are consistently rated 4.8 out of 5 or better. So we are really passionate about Model UN, and we are excited to facilitate the Model UN community coming together to talk about conferences and many other opportunities to participate. If you want to learn more about Model UN or about Best Delegate, we also have a 12-year impact report for what Best Delegate has been up to over the last 12 years to support the Model United Nations community and this incredible activity that we all know and love so well. I want to go ahead and share with everyone what to expect over the next 55 minutes. We are going to start by helping everyone plan your Model UN calendar for this school year. We got a lot of great questions about organizing your calendar for this year or for future years. What types of things should you look for when considering what conferences to attend? So we have a fabulous MUN mentor, Georgina, who's going to cover some of the planning fundamentals for setting up your calendar year. And then the majority of our time today is going to be spent with our incredible conference organizers. We are so privileged to have awesome secretary generals and leaders from top conferences throughout the US and Canada. So we'll be giving them the opportunity to answer your questions and to help you learn more about different Model UN conferences. At the end, we've got some exciting announcements, including from Best Delegate's co-founder, a new project that we've been working on. Little hint, it has to do with podcast. And at the end, after that, we'll have a chance for breakout rooms where you can meet with the different conference organizers and ask them questions about their conferences and the events that they are putting on this school year. So without further ado, I would love to go ahead and share the stage with Georgina, and she's going to tell you a little bit about some tips for planning your conference year.
Thanks so much, Laura Beth. So hi, everyone. As Laura Beth mentioned, my name is Georgina, and to briefly introduce myself and give you all a little bit more context as to my Model UN backstory. So I started doing Model UN when I was in 8th grade, and it wasn't because I knew so much about international politics or knew that Model UN was the activity for me. No, I was absolutely terrified of public speaking. So I'd get up in front of more than 5 people. Step 1, my hands would start shaking like crazy. Step 2, I would want to run out of there like anybody's business. And step 3, my face would be turning as red as a tomato. So I had a friend who I considered to be a mentor at the time. She was like, hey, Georgina, you should really try this activity called Model UN. It'll definitely help you with your fear of public speaking, and you're going to make a ton of awesome memories along the way. I walked into that first club meeting and then attended my first conference, and I absolutely never looked back. It was as a result of attending Georgetown's high school conference, MUN, that I actually decided to attend Georgetown for college to study a lot of these topics and a lot of these issues far more in depth. So without attending Model UN conferences in high school, I would have never gotten to where I am today. After graduating from Georgetown, I spent a year working for a Model UN company in India, spent some time with the Peace Corps in Thailand, and I'm currently a graduate student at NYU and back teaching Model UN. So I'm so excited to be able to share with all of you a lot more about these incredible conferences and the amazing opportunities these represent for you, for your students, for your kids, whoever you may have attending these conferences. So to get into what Model UN looks like this year and what you need to know in terms of considering planning your conference's calendar to lead into our awesome panel event. I'm going to begin by taking you back a couple years. So think back to 2020. I'm sure that you can all remember this pretty big global event that sent us all into this here Zoom grid. The same thing happened in terms of Model UN. Suddenly, in-person Model UN conferences couldn't be hosted. And a lot of students and faculty were left wondering, how can we continue with this activity? Can Model UN work virtually? Is there a way for students to continue to debate these really important global issues and find a way to talk about what's happening today? Hint, the answer was yes, and Model UN went online. Then moving forward to the last year or so, we started finally getting back to having in-person MUN as well. And a number of conferences found ways to really accommodate for COVID and to make safe conferences for students to attend, as well as find ways to bring Model UN back in person, which is what a lot of these pictures show in terms of how Model UN has evolved based on COVID-19 and beyond. Today, students are back doing Model UN, both in person as well as virtually. And the bottom line of all of this is, throughout COVID and beyond, students have been so excited to participate in Model UN. And it's proved to be one of the most transformative experiences that students can have in middle school, in high school, and throughout their academic experiences, whether it be in-person Model UN, whether it be middle school students doing virtual Model UN, or whether it be high school students. Today, the Model UN environment is vast in terms of virtual conferences, hybrid conferences, and in-person conferences, many of which you'll definitely get to hear about in the next couple minutes. So what is it about Model UN that gets students so excited? Why is this activity so powerful? Model UN allows every student to step into the shoes of a world leader and step outside of that student role to learn key skills and really analyze what's going on in the world today. I know I am constantly inundated by push notifications on my phone of some other crazy global event that's happened. Model UN allows students to discuss and lead on these topics by going through 5 stages. So they research, and then they debate. They debate the general topic and subtopics. Then they get to negotiate with one another to write resolutions and take action. So as you consider planning your conference's calendar and preparing, these are absolutely key skills that you should be focusing on. Now, other key elements to keep in mind as you're considering your conference's calendar and which of these conferences you may want to attend this year or in future years. Definitely keep note of conference dates to know when these will fit in with your schedule and your school schedule. Keep track of the conference level. Are there certain grades that each conference is for? Does each conference have a certain difficulty level, whether it be a novice conference or a more invitational or advanced level conference? Think about conference locations as well as conference formats. So is it a conference near you that you're looking for? Are you looking for a virtual option? Are you looking for something in person? And also keep conference hosts in mind, which will again point you to conferences that might be geographically closest to where you are. And here's a sample of what a good conferences calendar may look like in terms of having a mix of preparation, training conferences, local conferences, and invitational conferences. So in terms of building your conferences calendar, you can really puzzle together a bunch of different level conferences to really accommodate each and every one of your students and give them the full experience. And finally, in terms of logistics to be aware of, definitely keep track of deadlines. You have to register for each of these conferences. Know when the last day is to register so you don't miss that. Again, consider location as well as size. How many delegates might be attending this conference? Are you looking for that huge scale conference? Are you looking for something smaller, more local? Also, create a roster with key student information. It makes it easier for all of you to submit that info and get your registrations in on time. And last but not least, definitely be sure to create a preparation process. And with all of this in mind, you should have the foundation to set up your conferences calendar, keeping in mind what each of our panelists will share with you moving forward. And with that, I will turn it back over to Laura Beth to introduce all of our awesome panelists and go ahead to get all of your questions answered.
Fabulous. Thank you, Georgina. We've got at least 12 amazing organizers of awesome conferences from around the US with us today and from Canada as well. And so I'm going to give all of them a brief opportunity to introduce themselves and to share briefly their name, what conference they organize, how large their conference is, and maybe one or two words about how they're feeling about the Model UN community and conference planning for this year. So I'll start with the panelists that we have on our screen here, and then we'll go through additional panelists that I see at the event as well. So Quinn, would you please kick it off for us and briefly introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. Hey guys, I'm Quinn Robinson. I'm the Secretary General for ILMUNC, which is the Ivy League Model United Nations Conference, which is a group around 50 or so University of Pennsylvania students. We host one of the largest Model UN conferences on the Eastern Seaboard, which is around, hopefully this year, 1,500 to 2,000 delegates in downtown Philadelphia in January from the 26th to the 29th, 2023. I've done MUN for around 7 years now myself, so I definitely know what makes a fun conference and committee, both on the collegiate and on the high school level. And one or two words to describe how I'm feeling. I mean, excited, glad to be back, I think, in person. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Quinn. Next up, Shrindi from Bruin MUN.
Hi, everyone. My name is Trinity. I'm part of Bruin MUN, which is Model UN at UCLA's high school conference. We're on November 12th and 13th, and we're proud to be hosting a virtual conference this year. So we have both in-person and virtual options. We typically get around 1,500, but this year we've expanded a lot. So we're looking to host about 1,700 to 1,800 people in committees of all sizes, ranging from small to large. I've been doing Model UN myself for about 9 years now. So again, definitely know a lot about what it's like to train people, what it's like to host a conference, and everything in between. In regards to how I'm feeling about MUN this year, excited, a little scared, but mostly really, really happy to see everyone back.
Fabulous, thank you. Next up, Archer from Gator MUN, please.
Yeah, hi guys. So my name is Archer. I am the Secretary General for Gator MUN at the University of Florida. I've done MUN for about 7 years, so lots of experience with GA and specialized committees. Our conference this year runs completely in its entirety by UF Model UN team and is in our centralized student union from the 20th to the 22nd of January. We're one of the largest high school Model UN conferences in Florida, if not the largest. We have about 800 delegates, hopefully 950 this year. Looking forward to having a great, huge conference after a little bit of a dip with COVID, but I am overjoyed for Model UN this year. That's my word.
Awesome, great to hear, thank you. Next up, let's go ahead and have Rachel from NAMUN.
Hi, everybody. My name is Rachel. Like Laura said, I'm from NAMUN. NAMUN is the largest student-run Model UN conference in the world. We host 3,300 delegates every single year. Our conference is staffed by over 250 Georgetown University students, which is where I go, where Georgina also went to school. A word to describe me this year, I guess I'm feeling animated and energized. I've been doing Model UN for 7 years myself, and I love giving back to the high school circuit as a college student now.
Fantastic, thank you. Next, Lizzie from SUNS.
Hi, so my name's Lizzie. I'm the Secretary General of SUNS, which is the Secondary Schools United Nations Symposium. We are the largest conference in Canada. So our conference takes place every year in Montreal, Quebec, and it's run by over 200 to 300, depending on the year, McGill staffers. And I've been doing MUN myself, I guess, for about 6 years now, so quite some time, and organizing conferences from high school through now. So I have a great deal of experience in that, and I'm just so excited to get to be SecGen this year for SUNS because it's our 30th anniversary. SUNS is coming up on the 10th of November, and if you want to register, the deadline is tonight at 11:59 p.m. So I'll leave it at that. I'm feeling, I guess I would just say, extremely excited and enthusiastic about going back in person this year.
Love it. And love that last minute deadline if anyone's still looking for a conference. Next up, John Rebel from SOCOMUN.
Hi, thank you for having me. Appreciate being here. This is my 26th year doing Model United Nations. So I'm the old man in the room, I guess. We host the South Orange County Model United Nations Conference, which actually already happened September 23rd, 2022. Our next one will be September 28th, 2023. We already have a waiting list for that. We had about 1,300 people this year. We're probably going to go back up to about 1,600 next year. And my word for this year is relieved because unlike everybody else, I'm done hosting the conference and I don't have to worry about it until later in the summer. So thank you.
Love that, John, but we look forward to your expertise for everyone else who's finishing up the planning period and selecting their conferences. And next up, Carolyn, please, from Munich.
Hi, everyone. My name is Carolyn. I am the Secretary General for Munich at the University of Chicago this year. I'm going to drop our website in the chat because our registration is still open for our conference from February 2nd through February 5th. We have 28 great committees. We already have about 2,500 delegates registered, and we'd love to see more people there. I guess my word would be excited in that same vein.
Awesome. Thank you. Next up, Akash from MUN.
Hi, everyone. My name is Akash. I am a junior in high school, so I'm a little bit different than the rest of the panelists here, but I am from Miracosta High School, and I'm representing the MUN Conference, or Los Angeles Invitational Model United Nations. The conference will be taking place on the weekend of December 3rd and 4th at the Miracosta High School campus. Me, myself, I've been in MUN for 4 years now. This is my 3rd year doing MUN in high school, and I also competed when I was in 8th grade as well. So I would say that I have some pretty formidable experience. And most years we have about 1,000 to 1,200 delegates at our school, but that varies year by year. We currently have about 900 delegates registered, but we're always looking for more participants. I would say personally, my word to describe the MUN world is enthusiastic. I'm really excited to get back to in-person conferences and really excited to see what's to come for the MUN culture.
Awesome. Thank you, Akash. Next, we have Cameron from UGA Monk.
Thank you. Yeah, my name is Cameron Casper. I am the Secretary General of the University of Georgia's Model UN team. And every year we host our high school competition, Monk, which this year is taking place February 3rd through 5th. And so our registration for that will open on November the 1st. Personally, I've been doing Model UN for about 10 years now. And so I'm excited to, have the opportunity to engage in a competition and lead a competition that consists of about 700 individuals who come from all across the Southeast in the United States. And honestly, I'm very excited to get back into person. Monk particularly took a pretty big hit when COVID happened and schools took a hit as well. And so we're just very excited to get back into hosting an in-person competition.
Thank you so much, Cameron. Next, we have India and Wanjay from Princeton.
Hi, my name is India, and this is Wanjay, and we are the Secretaries General of Princeton University's Model United Nations Conference. This year, we are thrilled to announce that it's going to be hosted in East Brunswick, New Jersey on November 17th through 20th, with about approximately 1,100 to 1,200 delegates in attendance. This year there will be 6 crisis committees, 7 specialized, 7 GAs, as well as a virtual committee put on by 100 Princeton students.
Yep. And we have a diverse array of committees represented from Model UN classics like DISEC and UNDP to fast-paced innovative crises like King Arthur's Round Table and a futuristic committee on Mars in 2020. And our conference isn't just limited to committee time. We're really excited to announce that we'll be offering tours of Princeton's campus, social events, and many fun activities for our delegates during their downtime. Our registration is still open, so we'll drop our website link in the chat. But late registration just opened up and will be open until early November, which is when we anticipate our conference to be filled.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. And next, Ward from Bosman, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ward, and I'm the Secretary General of the Boston University Model United Nations Conference. I'm very excited to host this year. Bosman, it's from February 10th to the 12th. We have 32 committees, 8 general assemblies, 8 ECOSOC, 8 specialized, and 8 crisis committees. Bosman pride themselves as a training conference. We are about the first few conferences to be hosted in the spring across the circuit. We host about 15 to 1,700 delegates each year. And we have 4 novice committees for those who have never done MUN or who wants to try crisis committees. We also have advanced committees to kind of, which are new, to kind of show delegates what it's like to compete on a collegiate level. And I've been doing MUN for so long. And like Georgina, I actually attended Bosman as a high school, which was the reason I ended up at Boston University. So I'm very excited, and it's kind of a full circle for me to go from a delegate to a Secretary General.
Awesome. Thank you. And next, Lydia from FI-MUN.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lydia. I am the Secretary General for FI-MUN 35. I can very well relate to Ward because I was a delegate in this conference that I'm now a Sec Gen of. So it's very much a full circle, and I graduate right like after the same semester as FI-MUN. FI-MUN is located in Miami, Florida at FIU's beautiful campus. So we're very close to another conference here in Florida. We are hosting our conference in March, so March 10th to the 12th, 2023. Our registration is open already, so we look forward to all of you registering. And if you want any more information, I'll be dropping our email in the chat as well as our website. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Lydia. And last, I'd be remiss if I didn't let Kevin also jump in. I could see he's excited to be here as well. Kevin is a co-founder of Best Delegate and also helps with all of our Best Delegate conferences.
Hey, everyone. My name is Kevin Felix Chan, also known as KFC by my initials. I'm just super excited to hear from all the different conferences. In the previous years of Best Delegate, I visited a lot of the conferences in person and to really compare and write them up on Best Delegate so we can showcase how diverse the community is. And I'm just excited to both hear about them virtually, but also to go back out and visit a lot of the conferences in person. And so we hope to see the students there and also meet some of the staff from the different conferences as well.
Thanks, Kevin. So represented just in this room alone, we have tens of thousands of students that will be participating in your conferences this year. And if I missed any conference organizers, please feel free to drop your name and info in the chat, and I'll come back to you in just a moment. But one of the top questions that we had was, are there certain conferences that are best suited for beginners, or can really any student jump in at any initial conference? And I'd love to kick this one over to John for you to share with us a little bit about how people can go about selecting what conferences might be right for their students when they're getting started.
Let's first off say that the answer to that question is yes. There are certain conferences that are tailored towards beginning students, but really you can go to any MUN conference and you'll figure it out as you go along. Our conference, the SOCOMUN conference, is a teaching conference where we take people with little to no experience and we kind of teach them the process and how to get started in Model United Nations. But really any conference you go to, you're going to learn and your kids are going to get excited, even if they are not the most eager to participate at the first conference they go to. They're going to see everybody else participating, and they're going to get excited about going to a next conference. So the most important thing to do as a conference organizer is to get started and just go to a conference, see what it's like, experience it, and your students are going to come back excited from that experience and want to go to another one.
Fabulous. And if any of our SecGens have beginner only committees or have specialized committees that you recommend just for advanced students, please feel free to share some of those notes in the chat as well. I think it's very common that there are some beginner conferences, but there are also some conferences that have some committees designated for beginning students and some committees designated for more advanced students, as I see a lot of nodding. Do any of the Secretary Generals want to provide just a little bit more information about what that might look like at your conference? Yeah, Ward, would you please share about Bosman?
Yeah, like I previously said, Bosman prides itself as a teaching conference, but specifically we have designated a novice committee in each of the type of committees. So one GA, one ECOSOC, one specialized, and one crisis committee. For those delegates who have never done MUN before or who wants to transition onto those crisis committees, the staffers of these committees have done MUN for so long, and they are very, very knowledgeable about everything MUN related. The committees are slower paced than any other of the committees, but with that, it helps the delegates ask questions, we answer them, and we go through either resolution writing, crisis notes, crisis arc, backroom arc notes. We provide feedback at all times, and we saw that students feel much more comfortable if they've never done MUN to participate more, and usually they come back to go on to either the regular committees or even the advanced committees that we have in crisis.
Awesome. Thank you, Ward. I think that's true for many of the conferences here. And many of you have a novice committee and or have different levels or types of committees, and also a range in size of committee. I would love if someone doesn't mind sharing a little bit about what the size of your committees might look like and kind of what's typical of local conferences versus bigger national conferences. If all the Secretary Generals want to share a little bit about the size of your typical committee. And Lizzie, if you don't mind sharing what you've seen across the circuit for primarily high school conferences, that would be great to give us some context as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I've competed as a high school delegate, and then obviously now I'm organizing a conference myself. I will say I am primarily a crisis delegate, so I tend to be in those smaller kind of 18 to 20 person sized committees. But for example, at SUNS this year, we have a double delegate GA that goes up to as large as 360 delegates in one room. So there really is a huge breadth of size within committees. And also oftentimes you'll have the beginner committees, which sometimes if it's a GA, they'll make either a little bit smaller to give delegates more time to speak, or for example, for us, we have one of our advanced crisis committees this year, which is actually one of our smaller committees. So it requires delegates to really fight for their spot a little bit more and make it a little bit more challenging. So the size definitely does play a big role. And that's something I would think about when you're doing character assignments for your committees. And then also just talking to the, at SUNS, we call it the charge d'affaires, but it's a little bit different depending on the conference. Basically the person doing registration and talking to them about what character assignments would be best for your delegates, depending on, if they have done MUN before or not. Because it really, the conference organizers are there to help you. They want you to come to the conference. So in all means, they're going to be able to help you find the advanced committees, the beginner committees, and help you figure out what would be best for your delegates.
I think that's a great piece of advice that so many students and teachers forget, is that there are people behind the conference and they want you to succeed. And if you reach out, a lot of these conferences are excited to help you succeed, which transitions to one of the common questions that we got, which is for teams or for students that are doing Model UN for the very first time. What is that experience like? How should they prepare for attending your conference? And I'd love to start that one off with Rachel, if you don't mind sharing a little bit about how people can prepare for an MUN conference.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to speak a little bit to preparation. So I once was a first-time delegate, and I know how daunting going into your first committee can be. My first committee was SOCUM. It was gigantic. I was scared, probably as scared as Georgina was when she first started MUN. So I know that feeling of being anxious and overwhelmed for Model UN. For me, the most important thing, and what I always stress to students, is doing really intentional and detailed research. Coming into a committee, knowing your position like the back of your hand, knowing the body you're going to be involved in, the other members of that body, and what tasks you have set in front of you for the weekend will be, make you a lot more comfortable and settled going into a committee weekend. I think as a new delegate, it's important to think about whether that would be better for you in a larger or a smaller room. I think NAMUN, like the other conferences we have here, offers a variety of sizes. So if 300 people in a GA is maybe too much for you, you can be a beginner in a crisis committee at NAMUN and still get that kind of support that you were looking for. So I think that's really meaningful. But ultimately for me, it comes down to researching, speaking to people that are more experienced than you. NAMUN offers a program where I, as SG, and all my USGs will train delegates for free, whether you're coming to NAMUN or not, over Zoom. I have a whole new curriculum I just made, because for me, making sure students feel comfortable coming into a conference weekend by learning from people like the people that are here means a lot to me. So I think those are my things: research and really learning from people who are here to give you expertise.
Love that. Thank you, Rachel. That's a great point about getting help from NAMUN and from other conferences. I'll share Georgina, who's one of the MUN mentors at Best Delegate, also does that as well. So if you have a school that's preparing for any of these awesome conferences and you need a little help getting ready, we do free 1-hour webinars with schools that are preparing for conferences. And that's a great way to help students feel a little bit more confident before showing up at one of these awesome events. Another question that I saw, and I want to just look at this again, is about that first delegate experience. I know that we've shared a little bit about preparation, but what about for students that are nervous or new? What advice would you have for them? And Akash, I'll turn this one over to you. For a new high school student doing MUN who might be nervous to participate for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, just like Rachel mentioned, we were all first-time delegates at some point. I mean, I participated in my first committee my freshman year. I was online. And it was certainly a very daunting experience for me. My older brother did Model UN. I really wasn't experienced at all. And I really didn't have an idea. Although I did it in 8th grade, I didn't have an idea. But I would say, you know, in terms of what was successful for me and the advice I would give for people, Rachel talked a lot about the research. I would also emphasize the, you know, really establishing your credibility from the beginning. And really practicing your rhetoric, practicing your speaking styles. I'm really, really big on rhetoric. If you see me debate, you know, I love, you know, crazy hooks. You know, I like filling up my time, really, garnering the attention of the audience. And so I would say that first experience, it's definitely going to be daunting, but the sooner that you can establish, you know, why your policy is the best, you know, really assert your strength and your dominance in committee, I really think that will help you out.
Absolutely. And I liked your point too about that first opening speech, feeling confident on that one. And I'll have Georgina drop a link in the chat too. We've got a ton of resource videos on how to prepare opening speeches and other elements that a lot of students use before conferences. That's also something that you can leverage as well. But one big conference question that we typically get is, so those of us in the room right now are the enthusiasts. We love Model UN and we like to participate in conferences. Many of us did it as students and now are running conferences. But for people that are trying to recruit other high school students from their school who might be new to Model UN, how can we get them excited about doing Model UN and participating in this awesome activity? Does anyone have any recommendations on that? Archer, we'll kick it off with you, please.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think the best way to get excited is to show committees and conferences that your students will really enjoy. Catering to their interests was really important for me in high school. When I was a delegate, I was really excited for the committees and I did the best in the committees that I enjoyed and felt prepared for. So getting as involved as you can in the interest of your students or as students in the topics of committee that you really want to see is the real hook, I think.
Awesome. Thank you, Archer. And Srinidhi, did you have anything you wanted to add there?
Yeah, I think for me, a large part of it in high school was doing that, like being involved in committees that I was passionate about. I'm pre-med, so like doing a lot of things like related to the WHO or like things like that what got me really excited. But I think outside of Model UN, generally just fostering a community within the space that you have and within the people that join, that's completely external to like everything that you're doing in a Model UN environment is really crucial. So that means like organizing socials or generally just making sure members feel comfortable and things like that. I think is so key to making them feel comfortable, relaxed, and like they want to join Model UN, and it's a fun place outside of what is typically seen as like an academic extracurricular.
Absolutely. And I think embrace the nerdiness. Those of us that do it because we love it and we see the fun experience that comes from that. And I think don't be afraid to share that passion with others as well. So thank you all for kicking off some of those questions about planning your conference calendar and what to expect. I want to get into some questions around general preparation for conferences. And I'm going to turn this one over to the team on the question of what does a typical MUN year look like for high school students that might be doing Model UN during the school year? How many conferences might they want to be looking to attend? And what's that variation of things that you might consider? I know Georgina shared an example, but I'd love to get some feedback from all of our awesome sections in the room as well. So India, would you mind sharing a little bit about what a typical Model UN calendar might look like for schools that are participating?
Yeah, I think with a little disclaimer that it definitely varies from school to school and what conferences are available in the regional area. For me personally, at my high school, we would attend about 5, a couple local. I'm from Georgia, so we'd attend some in the Atlanta area. actually Monk we would go to. And then we would do usually a few big conferences outside of Georgia. So 2 to 3, depending on the year and our interest levels. I think the thing to keep in mind about that is how many students you want to take on each trip and how big is the size of your club. It's not always feasible for everybody to go on every single trip. And so maybe if a smaller club doesn't want to do like 10 trips, I would say these are the things to keep in mind.
Awesome. Thank you. Cameron, did you have anything you wanted to add there about what a Model UN year might look like for participants?
Yeah, and I also just want to say that it's very nice to have an Monk alum here as well. But yeah, the high school, the high school that I came from, we went to about 3. And I went to a high school that was in Southeast Georgia, and we went to 3 per year. And so what that looked like is 1 in the fall, and when we were more prepared and more readily available to really tackle things. In the spring, we went to 1 or 2. And so, I just do want to kind of piggyback on the lean team is what, we usually call it, in terms of like, you don't have to send your entire team places if you have a larger team. We always took about 10 members to NISMUN every year. And so, we also provide a lot of resources in regards to like how to train your delegates. And we are also always open to preparing in that respect as well. So I know Best Delegate, we use a lot of their information as well, and we kind of funnel our students there. And so, but yeah, it's definitely very enriching. So.
Thank you, Cameron. Another key question we got was how would you prepare if you only had 1 hour, if you really had 3 hours, or if you had a couple of weeks to prepare for a conference? Because let's be real, most of us that have done Model UN have been in all of those different situations. Even as experienced delegates, I'm sure there are those of us that may or may not have prepared on a bus ride to a conference or 2 over the years. So I would love to get some insight from our conference organizers on what you would do first on the short end of preparation, and then we'll go to the long end of preparation if we have a lot of time to prepare for a conference. But Lydia, would you share with us, if you had just 1 or maybe 2 hours to prepare for a conference, how would you recommend that delegates use that time to prepare for FIMUN or any conference they might be going to?
Yes, of course. So I actually have a funny story. My first year doing Model UN, we had been trained so strongly on GA-styled conferences, right? And GA-styled committees. But I was put in a crisis. And, I didn't really have a lot of preparation on this. I just knew my character, the country, and sort of the time range that we were going to be covering. And I'm gonna just mention, this is how I learned I am a GA delegate, but that's okay. So essentially, I honestly did prepare on the ride to, it was in FIMUN, it was another conference here locally. So I'm glad it gave me a little stepping stone to FIMUN. And so basically what I really focused on is who I was representing, what were their major views on some of the topics, and the background guide. The background guide is so important for any committee that you're in. The background guide provides both what the chairs and the directors are going to be looking for, as well as some of like your strongest case studies for whatever you might be doing. So number one is the background guide, and your character or country position. That's the strongest thing with 1 hour. Yeah.
Thanks, Lydia. And if you had a little bit more time to prepare, Quinn, how would you go about doing that for a conference as well?
Yeah, if I had a little more time than an hour, which hopefully I do in any kind of situation like this, I think number one, the same kind of first step is read the background guide, make sure you know your country position. I think beyond that, it's not just about knowing the research, knowing the background, knowing facts about your country, having a big binder of all that kind of information, but also learning on how to apply it, sketching out ways in which like each of those facts or elements about your position, as well as the positions of countries around you, would influence the flow of debate from day to day or hour to hour, even within committee. And beyond that, I think also if you have a little bit more time, making sure that you're good to go and all the kind of like skill sets that you're going to need for MUN as well, even beyond kind of the educational resources that are available to you. Learning how to speak off the cuff, learning how to bring people together and find consensus when you have 9 million different positions all jockeying for power and unmod. I think those things are really what comes to mind when it comes to preparing ahead of time, and especially like when it comes to making sure that you're feeling all right, not really feeling anxious going into committee, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Quinn. And the next question that I have is also for the teachers in the room and for the teachers watching after the fact. We've talked about a lot about what a delegate might feel like going in for the first time, but what advice might you have for the teachers that are trying to prepare their students to do this activity, but never did Model UN themselves? What advice might you give to the teachers who are helping to facilitate these Model UN teams traveling as well? Carolyn, would you please share a little bit on that one?
Of course. So if it's your first time doing Model UN, it kind of feels like you only have an hour, regardless of how much time you have. So I'd say the biggest thing is, and I'm glad so many people put theirs in chat, look at the conference that you're taking your delegation to and look at the resources that they have available on their websites. So many people have done it for the first time. We want to try to help mitigate some of the fears that come with that by providing materials just for the teachers. So definitely check those out. In terms of public speaking and making sure that your students feel ready, biggest thing is just to practice, practice, practice. Make sure that you try different committee types. Make sure you try doing different locations for the speaking. Just try to get your students out of their comfort zone in any way that you can to make sure they feel ready for conference as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Carolyn. Another question that we got was, now that we are in a world where there are virtual conferences, in-person conferences, and hybrid conferences, how do I build my club's schedule and calendar in a way that leverages all of these different resources? And I would love to hear first from Ward on that kind of element of having some of the hybrid, opportunities available, as well as some of the in-person and virtual pieces.
Yeah. I believe if there is this option, and if you're recruiting one virtual conference, be to see like the basis of how the delegates are doing and how the students in general compete, and then maybe move more towards in-person conferences in the spring, where you can have, either a cut team, a travel team, or, open applications for if you're going to do conferences and bring 2 different teams. Having the virtual conferences, to be honest, it is cheaper than going in person because there's no hotel fees. It's just like the conference fees, and the conference fees are usually less. So it allows you to bring more delegates there, and it allows them to see how MUN runs in general and maybe try different committees that they've always wanted to try.
Absolutely. Kevin, do you want to add anything to that? I think a lot of teachers see all of these fabulous conference organizers here today, but don't necessarily know, how do I pick what conference my students should be heading to or testing out for the first time? And how do I pick that variety of virtual, in-person, and hybrid conferences? So if you have any wisdom from your many, many years on the MUN circuit about selecting conferences and kind of the blend of in-person and virtual, I think that would be great to share as well.
I think when we put ourselves into the shoes of a beginner, right? They don't want to feel overwhelmed with too much research. Accessibility and cost is a factor. Also, time commitment. Do I want to spend this much time when I'm not sure if I like something, or I might be even afraid of it? So to me, the lowest barrier to entry is a one-day local conference or a virtual training conference. That is what the easiest way to start. But that may not, not every student may be interested in that. But I would recommend starting kind of like Ward said, like starting with that first, and then building your way up to like 2-day conferences. For some schools, it is actually you have to work your way up to going to travel conferences, because we're not sure if the students will take it seriously or feel prepared yet. And so, you have to demonstrate that you've been to a 1-day conference or a mock session within your school before you're allowed to go travel to some of the 3-4-day conferences that are overnight at a hotel.
Absolutely. Thanks, Kevin, for sharing on that. And I want to leave us some time to be able to go into breakout rooms as well. So thank you for answering on those initial questions, all of our panelists. If you don't mind also just jotting into the chat for everyone the link to your conference, the registration deadline again, and any other notes about your conference, I would really appreciate it. And briefly, I want to share a couple more resources for everyone that's looking into Model UN conferences this year. And one exciting announcement from Best Delegate. Before before we then break up into different breakout rooms for everyone today. So without further ado, I have a little drum roll. We not only have Kevin on this call, but we also have Best Delegate's other co-founder with us today, Ryan Villanueva. And I would love for Ryan to briefly introduce himself and share an exciting announcement that we would love to share with the whole Model UN community. Ryan?
Thank you, Laura Beth. And before I continue, can we get a round of snaps for Laura Beth and the way she moderated this whole panel? It is not easy to moderate a dozen people. And I know Georgina is in the background supporting. So thank you, Gio. And thank you everybody for being part of our panel today and everyone attending and watching this webinar. And I do want to give our announcement, but with a little bit of suspense. I realize I love all the answers that we got to the questions that were posed. And it was a lot of the what and the how. Like, what does your Model UN conference look like? What does the year look like? How should we prepare for MUN conferences? But the question that I want to prompt, I'm not going to try to facilitate this, just prompt this question, is the why. Why do we Model UN? Why do students put on suits on a weekend in order to attend an MUN conference instead of, I don't know, getting sleep or catching up on homework or just hanging out with their friends? Why do you, everyone here on this panel, put in the time and the effort to organize Model UN conferences? And undoubtedly, I hope you're having fun, you're making friends, you're learning something through your MUN experience. And yes, maybe it looks good for the university application or for getting that first job out of college. But when I look back on my own experiences doing Model UN over the last 20 plus years and working with hundreds of and thousands of students, teachers all around the world, I believe that all of those reasons come down to one thing. My personal view on this is that Model UN brings out the best in us, that Model UN inspires us to be leaders, to make a difference in our communities, to make an impact. And that Model UN inspires us to be our best, to bring out the best in ourselves and in others. And that's why I'm excited to announce Best Delegate's latest project and initiative and a personal passion of mine, which is the Model United Nations podcast by Best Delegate. I've been thinking about this for years. Podcasting has become a thing over the last few years. I'm curious over here, show of hands, how many of you listen to podcasts? You've got your favorite podcast, something you might listen to while you're, going to and from work or school or doing chores, or just something you want to listen to. I'm a big fan of podcasts. And I know that there have been different Model UN podcasts over the years, and I've listened to them. And I think that's awesome. And I just thought that for Best Delegate, for us and for our Model UN community, that we should have a podcast. And I would love it to explore what is Model UN, how to do Model UN, how to prepare, but more importantly, the why of Model UN. And on this podcast, which launched literally today, the first few episodes are today, why do students do Model United Nations? And how does Model UN bring out the best in us? And so you can check it out wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple, Google, Spotify, wherever. We're also on Anchor. Anchor is our platform. Our first few episodes are about a 16-year-old high school student who teaches Model UN to second graders, which I thought was an incredible story, while at the same time competed at MUN, where's Rachel, Georgetown MUN, and learned a very valuable lesson in Model UN that I think maybe resonates with a few of us here, what it means to win the last outstanding. Yeah, some people get that. Okay, so that was a great episode. And then finally, how Model UN inspires her for what she wants to do in college and career. We've got another episode coming up with Georgina, whom you met. And that episode is entitled Everybody Loves MUN. So again, big shout out to Rachel and MUN. And an episode, not just with students, but also teachers. So I got John Remmel here on the panel. His episode is coming up, I think, sometime in November. We're going to talk a lot about Orange County Model UN. So I saw someone from MUN here, Mira Costa. Oh yeah, big shout out to Bob Timberlake and Wayne and your advisors, and all the Orange County advisors made a big impact. Basically, for me personally, this is like a love letter to Model UN and all the people that I've met in Model UN, and it features a lot of great students and teachers coming out. So I encourage you to check out the podcast, follow it, subscribe on whatever platform you use. and open to feedback. Would love to know what you think about the podcast. And if there are any guests you think that I should bring onto the podcast, not excluding the people who are already on this panel. So would love to get you and your conferences and clubs featured on the podcast as well. Just want to know what you think. So thank you, Laura Beth, for the time and the space to make this announcement. Very excited. And thank you all for what you're doing, not just for your MUN clubs and conferences, but for the MUN community, because this is more than just an activity that inspires us. This is a community of leaders and change makers. And I think we're all working together to make it a better place and to bring out the best in all of us. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Ryan. And yes, we would love to feature all of you, your conferences, and students and teachers doing Model UN. So please feel free to reach out. There's a form, a contact form right on our website, bestdelegate.com/podcast, where you can also see the links to all these episodes and put in suggestions for our podcast as well. And I also want to share, just like NAMUN and many of the other conferences, we do have a ton of resources for schools looking to select conferences. The majority of conferences in the US are included in our conference database, and we're constantly looking to expand this. There's a conference database on bestdelegate.com, and we'll drop the link as well. And it is broken up by middle school, high school, and university conferences. And you can see whether conferences are virtual, in person, hybrid, and when and where they're located to help you pick conferences that work well for your school. And I'll also share a couple more resources. There's a ton of training videos on our website that help students prepare for that first conference experience and really get confident going into that opening speech. There's also guides to help prepare for virtual and in-person conferences. There's a conference selection guide that talks a lot about the size of the conference and the different types of conferences you might be looking at. And if you're trying to win awards, how you might want to determine the number of students and other factors that you would bring to a conference. And we've also got resources for in-person and virtual conferences as well. And if you're looking to help your school prepare for one of these awesome larger conferences, you might want to check out a BD Monk online conference. We have virtual training and advanced conferences every month, as well as every month we have a 3-hour Model UN 101 workshop to help train new students in Model United Nations. And without further ado, I'll also share we have a club accelerator. I think we have a few new teachers in the room today. And if you're really looking for a ton of help to get your club off the ground, we can provide you with the expert mentor and resources to jumpstart your program, including planning calls, a Model UN 101 workshop just for your school, and a practice training conference for your school as well. So please feel free to check out all the resources that all of these awesome conferences have, as well as Best Delegate. And each month we run a community event. So please feel free to check out our other upcoming community events. We have one in November on preparing for MUN conferences. So all of our sections, please feel free to share this with your students as well. It's a great way for students to get more comfortable getting ready for conferences. And we also have a college fair. I saw many of our Secretary Generals and leaders today attended the conference at the school that they ultimately went to. And we'll be running a college fair for high schoolers to learn more about Model UN in college and a lot of the different college MUN programs. But I do want to give us a couple of minutes to chat informally and to get to network with the other leaders that are here before we wrap up. But first, we have an amazing group of leaders here today, and I would love to get a group photo with everyone. So if you want to be part of the group photo at today's event, please feel free to go ahead and turn your camera on. And we'll take one together smiling, and then we can do one waving or something fun if we want to as well. All right, if everyone who would like to be a part of that can please go ahead and smile, that would be great. Awesome, and if we want one waving where we're all saying hello to the Model UN community. Awesome. Well, thank you to all of our fabulous panelists. We're going to go ahead and set up some breakout rooms that are organized regionally. We'll have a room for the California area, we'll have a room for the East Coast area, and we'll have a room for our miscellaneous regional conferences. Please feel free to jump into those rooms and speak with other conference organizers, students, parents, leaders. And I just want to, again, thank everyone for joining us today and for being a part of this event. It's great to see so many people join us tonight. And also, we will be sharing this out in different segments on our website and on social media. And again, we look forward to the thousands of people that will watch and learn about your conferences when that goes live on our websites as well. So Georgina, would you please let us know what breakout rooms you're going to be setting up? And we can leave those open until about 5 after the hour if people want to just chat and meet some of the other leaders in Model UN or ask any questions about the conferences in that region.
Absolutely. So to make this easiest for everyone, I'm going to set it up so participants can choose rooms, and I'm going to open 3 breakout rooms. So East Coast, West Coast, and miscellaneous regional, aka the rest of the United States and Canada. I have not forgotten about you, sons. So basically, for those of you who are participants / members of our audience, feel free to pick whichever breakout room best corresponds to the conferences you're looking for. To our conferences, I truly hope you know which region you're in. Please go to the corresponding breakout room and answer all of the many questions. With that, I'm going to open these. Be free.
Fabulous. And Kevin, if you'll join California, Georgina, if you'll join East Coast, and I will join the miscellaneous as well. And Ryan, feel free to pop into all of them. That would be great, so we can all get a sense of what's going on.
And I will hang out in this main room for just a minute in case anyone has some trouble joining a breakout room. That way I can manually assign you to the room that you would like to be in. So just send me a message in the Zoom chat and I can put you where you would like to go. Richard, can I help you find a breakout room? Michael, can I help you find a breakout room?
I don't know. I'm in Haiti and I'm not sure.
I am gonna put you, let's see, what would be a good one? Suns has virtual options. I also know Bosman has virtual options. Here, I'm gonna put you in the East Coast room because there are a lot of virtual options there. Sound good?
Alrighty, perfect. Thank you.
Hi, Ryan. I'm just
Hello.
closing up the breakout rooms and we'll thank everyone again.
Thank you so much for hosting.
Yeah.
Really,
thank you
really
for
wonderful.
joining and sharing about the podcast. I'm excited. So
I'm excited. I think this is great. It's a great event. All of our
Quite
student leaders. This is leadership in action, seeing our conference organizers. I think a really wonderful way to connect everybody.
Well, I just wanted to thank you all again for coming and for joining us today. To all of the students who joined, all the parents who joined, everyone who watches after the fact to learn more about conferences, and of course to our amazing conference leaders who came today to share about your conferences. We truly appreciate it. We are here to support the Model UN community, and we really do look at all of the conferences as partners in helping to empower students through Model UN. So thank you for joining us tonight, and I hope that we get to work with you many times throughout the year and with your students as well. And I'll share, Kevin may be reaching out to many of you because I know Kevin wants to go out and be on site, as do many of the people on our team, to help support your conferences. So thank you again for joining us. Kevin, do you have anything you want to say to everyone before we wrap out on the evening?
I just want to say thank you for everyone leading the different conferences. It's a lot of work to put on a Model UN conference and a lot of leadership. It's probably one of the best leadership experiences you can get. And in our breakout, we had somebody who said they're starting an MUN club, and that too is bringing their club to a conference. That too is also a big, leadership opportunity. So thank you, all of you, for leading in this community and making Model UN grow. And in that sense, making a difference in many people's lives.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kevin. And I also saw a question about, will this be shared? Absolutely. We'll share it across social media on our YouTube. Please feel free to share it with your social media as well for all of your conferences, so students can learn more about your conferences and preparation for all of those awesome events. And without further ado, I know it's late for all of you. Thank you again. Have a great evening. And thanks for everything you do to support the Model UN community. Have a great night.
Thanks, everybody.